Welcome to Weathersfield Proctor Library Storytime. I'm Glenna Coleman, Youth Services Librarian, and here's our Library Bear. You may be aware that we were closed the week before the week of Thanksgiving, and so I didn't really have time to prepare our Thanksgiving stories. But I love Thanksgiving, and I didn't want to miss that. So we're going to read some Thanksgiving stories anyway. How about that? Our first story of Thanksgiving is by Eve Bunting, and it is illustrated by Diane de Groat, and it is called A Turkey for Thanksgiving. And here we have some typical Thanksgiving table decorations. It was Thanksgiving morning. And let me sit down here so that I don't move the pages quite so much. It was Thanksgiving morning. Mr. Moose helped Mrs. Moose set the Thanksgiving table. Sheep will sit here. He likes a chair that's straight up and down, Mr. Moose said. Rabbit here, Porcupine here, and Mrs. Goat here. He smiled at his wife. Isn't it nice to have friends to share Thanksgiving? I spent Thanksgiving with my cat this year. There we go. Mrs. Moose set 2 paper pilgrims, one at each end of the table. She placed a paper turkey with its great fan of a tail between the candles and stood back. They look good, my dear, Mr. Moose said. Mrs. Moose sighed. Yes, but I wish we had a real turkey. Everyone always has a turkey for Thanksgiving. Everyone but us. Mr. Moose nuzzled Mrs. Moose's head. Well, that won't do. I will go this minute and find you a turkey for Thanksgiving. Mr. Moose put on his cap and went out. Mist wandered through the bare trees. The cold made his nose water. Rabbit poked his head from his rabbit hole. Mr. Moose, is it dinner time? Not quite yet. Mrs. Moose wants a turkey. I'm off to find one. Rabbit joined him in 3 quick hops. I'll come too. Moose's warm breath hung white in front of him. Let's just adjust that a little bit. There we go. Snow crunched under his hooves and made little holes that Rabbit jumped over. I see the goats, Rabbit said. Mr. Goat raised his head and spat out the tin can he was chewing. Is it dinner time? He called. Not till I find a turkey, Mr. Moose said. We saw one down by the river, Mrs. Goat told him, and Mr. Goat added, a fat one. The goats leaped down from their perch. We'll show you. Sheep was farther up the hillside, looking round as a furball in his winter coat. Is it dinner time? He bellowed. First I have to find a turkey, Mr. Moose bellowed back. There's a turkey nest on the riverbank, Sheep called. Wait for me. The earth smelled of ice and moss as they crunched along. Above them a crow hung, black as a puff of wood smoke. Porcupine was hiding in the underbrush. It's you, he said, and put his quills down. We're off to get a turkey for Mrs. Moose, Mr. Moose explained. Do you want to come? I'm slow, Porcupine said. Pick me up on your way back. Who'd want to pick you up? Sheep asked, and laughed his bleat of a laugh. I'll wait, Porcupine told Mr. Moose. Oh, won't do to skip a page. They saw Turkey's nest right away, and Turkey himself peering over the top of it. Turkey! Turkey! Mr. Moose called in his sweetest voice. Ah! Turkey blundered from his nest and ran. Mr. Moose lumbered after him. Turkey, don't run. We just want you for Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey ran faster. These signs say, do not disturb. Come back after Thanksgiving. And no turkey here. Mr. Moose saw the red and blue sheen of Turkey's neck. Turkey's tail brushed crumbs of snow behind him as he tried to fly. Too fat, Goat said. Turkey's legs bent in the middle as he fell. Mr. Moose put a booted hoof on his head and smiled his great toothy smile. I hope you don't have other plans for Thanksgiving, Turkey. He helped Turkey up. My wife won't mind that you're too fat, he said. Let's go. It's getting close to dinner time. They marched Turkey in front. I'm sorry about this, for I can see you don't want to come, Mr. Moose said, but I must insist. A promise is a promise. There was a wreath of dried fruit on the moose's door. The house was filled with Thanksgiving smells. Mr. Moose hid Turkey behind him. Look who I brought, Mrs. Moose, he said. Sheep, the goats, rabbit, and porcupine. And ta-da! He pushed Turkey around in front of him. For you! A turkey for Thanksgiving. Mrs. Moose clapped her hooves. I'm so happy to have you, Turkey. Thank you, Mr. Moose. Now everything's perfect. Shall we sit? Sheep asked, heading for the straight up and down chair. Let's. Mrs. Moose pointed. Rabbit here, porcupine here, Mr. and Mrs. Goat here. And look, I brought a chair from the other room in hopes of Turkey. A chair? Turkey stammered. Right next to me, Mrs. Moose said. Light the candles, Mr. Moose. There were bowls of acorns and alfalfa sprouts dried since summer. There was willow bark and cured grasses and wild parsley. There were pressed leaves thin and pale as new ice on a pond. I hope you find something here to your liking, Mr. Turkey, Mrs. Moose said. I wasn't sure of your taste. You're so kind to worry about my taste, Turkey said. I thought you'd be worrying about how I'd taste. Heavens, no! Mr. Moose smiled his big-toothed smile and filled everyone's cup with cold spring water. It's so nice to have friends around the table at Thanksgiving. Turkey's waddles wobbled. It's even nicer to be at your table and not on it, he said. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, Turkey. Well, I hope you enjoyed A Turkey for Thanksgiving by Eve Bunting, illustrated by Diane de Groat. We have one more story about a turkey, and this is called Turkey's Thanksgiving Adventure. This is written by Clay Sproles, and it's illustrated by Lamont Russ. Turkey's Thanksgiving Adventure. There's Turkey in the barnyard. It was Thanksgiving Eve when the turkey got wise. He heard the old farmer's wife sharpening her knives. Ooh, another rhyming book. I'll let you stop and fill in the words. He didn't want to be eaten. He wanted to stay. To survive this Thanksgiving, he had to hide away. The turkey tried to hide with the ducks in the pond, but of swimming and quacking, he wasn't too fond. That was a tough one, huh? He tried to hide with the pigs in their muddy sty, but he couldn't stand the filth, so he told them goodbye. The turkey tried grazing with cows in the pasture, but he fell in a cow pie. It was a disaster. He hopped over the fence into the goat's pen, but they were too loud, so he jumped again. As his options grew to be fewer and fewer, our brave poultry hero grew bluer and bluer. The turkey paced back and forth and clucked as he went. His life on the farm, he began to lament. That's a hard one. Lament means to be sorry about something. But the fowl was surely not one to give in. One solution remained. He had to get thin. There's the radio blaring. The turkey was focused on his thighs and his rump. He began working out so he wouldn't look plump. He did push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups, and then he sighed and did everything over again. After exercising, the turkey was pooped. He'd get back to it after a nap in his coop. But just as the turkey closed his beady eyes, he heard a noise and woke up in surprise. Oh, there stood the farmer in overalls clad. He said, "Don't worry, turkey. This news isn't bad. I was talking it over with the wife in the kitchen. We decided that this year we're going to eat chicken." The farmer tossed feed on the ground with a leer. "Eat up, turkey, so you'll grow bigger for next year." The turkey looks a little bit surprised about that news. Well, I hope you enjoyed Turkey's Thanksgiving Adventure by Clay Sproles, illustrated by Lamont Russ. Thank you for joining us, Bear and I. Well, Bear and me, I guess. For Weathersfield Proctor Library Storytime, I'm Glenna Coleman, Youth Services Librarian, and we'll see you next time. Christmas stories will be in time for Christmas, though. Until next time, bye.